Alright, back. Only interruption all day is when I videotape. Figures. Where did I leave off? I was talking about lifters or something. Cams. Anyway, I don't remember. Anyway, I'm still not sure if I'm going to use a Sportster case or the big twin case. I'm kind of leaning toward this case because I don't have to do much work to make it work because it kind of bolts on already. So I'm going to check on a cam after the first of the year when I can actually talk to somebody and see if they can make me a cam or not. There's a couple of variations. There's 2 or 3 options there. Starts with slim to none and goes lower. The 4-cam motor is not an issue. I can do whatever I want on those. Okay, let's see. Computer modeling said I need a big exhaust pipe. So 1 7/8 worked the best. The only problem is this is a 1 3/4 and that's an 1.5 inch hole I just measured. That goes into a 1 5/8 pipe, which is 1 3/4 on the OD. So that's going to be a large misfit there. So that's going to be a smaller pipe. The other thing is exhaust temperature is going to be really, really high. And I don't know if you can see how thin that is, but that's a really thin port there. So when I got a turbocharger on this thing, it's going to have 1500 degrees plus temperature. It's going to be kind of high. I think it'll melt the head away. Pretty sure it'll melt the head away. I'm pretty sure that any oil in that exhaust area is going to be gone. But, I don't know. We'll see. Alright. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out valve angles and stuff. So if I split the case here to get more room for bolt-on, then the angles really get bad. It's already bad enough. So we'll have to determine that. The other thing I'm thinking about doing is, because this case is cut out extra 1/4 inch to make room for the lifter block. So probably more than that. It's at least a 1/4 inch difference in there. So I'm thinking about going side-by-side connecting rods. So that means instead of having a knife and fork where you go through 2 rods like this, we have a fork rod and you have a male rod here in the middle. We go to a side-by-side arrangement like a car. We got 1 male rod here, 1 male here, and they go side by side. And when you do that, you have an offset here. That offset will compensate for the problem of the valve angle in here and the bolt hole location. But we want to be careful we don't go any more offset than what this one is. So we'll have to do that. Now to make that work, I'm going to have to go down here on the left case, on the back case over there, and put about that much weld over there. Yeah, I can handle that. Anyway, so that's what that's looking like. So that's not a for sure deal, but that's something. If I don't do that, then these 2 holes here will be not used because there's no material here. There's a lifter block in the way. You can't do that. So I might be able to cheat the bore over 1/8 inch in the case. I could probably go 1/8 or 1/4 inch on that case. You know, if it's fairly thick like that, I can move it over 1/4 inch and cheat and gain a little bit. And so I'll probably do a minimum at least that much and still use a knife and fork, but that means the connecting rod will not be in the center of the piston. Instead of being this way here, it's going to be over here, which is not the best. So as you put tons of load on your piston going up and down, it actually bends the rod over. These are not made to be pulled on sideways. It's hard on them. So, especially if you got some thin-ass H-beam rod. No strength. Alright, so those are issues to deal with too. Other than that, the being on center here is not a major issue other than that, as far as I can tell on this small bore motor here. So it's just making all of this work. So I don't know. Someone also said you take a Sportster case, cut all this crap away, just keep this part in here in the middle. So basically you cut it flush right up here, cut everything off, cut all this off and then kind of glue them together, and mysteriously it all fits. Yeah. That's going to be a good one. I've thought about doing that too. The problem is that's a different hole size. It's a different center line between here, the cams. This one has a lot more distance between the two center lines than Sportster. So that means that big ass bearing right there, which looks really nice, will be probably about right here. That doesn't leave you a lot of room for holding a cam bearing in. So it's going to get really, really thin. You're still going to have to fill that hole up because that's in between these two. So you can't have 3 holes right together. That'd be one big hole. That wouldn't work very well. So that'd be another problem. So there's a lot of issues to deal with. Plus you'd be offsetting the crank a fair amount. So I'm not sure how that's all going to work. And you would probably have to cut out the main bearing support here. Kind of needs to be left in the case. So that means you have to cut all of this out on this case, which means there's no strength. The oil pumps are completely different. The pump has a drive that comes right off of here with a worm gear, and that does not use that design. That has this oil pump on it. So, plus the splines on the Sportster crank here are not the same as the round shaft on the Big Twin. That's another problem. So you have a few issues. Like nothing fits. So that's a problem. Now there are ways to get around some of those problems. I actually have the S&S Pro Stock drag race pinion shafts that are like an inch longer than stock, and I can physically take it and cut the damn flywheel out and press it into the hole, and I can make myself a Big Twin Sportster shaft. So I can do that. I have a few of those, not many. They're not available anymore, but I have some. So it's a good thing I like to buy weird crap, because you never know when you need it. So, but that'd be a kind of a one-time deal. You're not going to replacing parts might be hard. So anyway, the best option so far is to go with a single cam like this, make it work. You're not doing any case modifications per se, a little bit of deck work, but no, we're not changing all this other crap. Like on this, you'd be changing every damn thing on it. Plus you have a transmission you can use. You got a motor mount system that'll actually fit into a Harley frame. If you cut this off here, there's no way of holding this motor into a frame anymore. It doesn't fit a Sportster, it doesn't fit a Big Twin, it doesn't fit a damn thing. We're going to keep this case over here, so that would be, so you got half a motor mount to hold your motor in. You'd have to fabricate all this other stuff onto that one. It's a big can of worms. A lot of welding. And the other guy said, oh, just make some billet cases. Okay, there's my machine. Come on over there and hand crank that out for me, and let me know when you're done. Yeah. I don't think so. That'd be a little hard to do. So the only thing computer around here is not much. There's not a computer in this building. Let's just put it that way. Unless you count the ignition in that my box there, but it's not a computer box. There's no ignition time. So even that has no computer in it. So there you go. We got no computer. Maybe this camera has a computer in it. That's about the closest thing I got to a computer in a building. Alright, other problem is rocker arm geometry, or lack of. Now I haven't actually measured this yet, but I'm thinking it's not much. So, let's just go off of this one over here. It's easier to get to it. Okay. So if you come off the center of the stand, because that's where the rocker shaft is at, to center your valve, looks like we're roughly about 2.3 inches. It's hard to read it with that. Where's my scale at? There's a time these are actually easier to read in calipers, like in this case. Okay, so if you put the hundreds, center bowl hole, Yeah, it looks like it's 2.3 inches. See how the 7 is right on center. Center the bolt over there. Okay, so we got 2.3 inches on this side. And then if we go to center the hole to the other hole, looks like we are 1.5. A little bit more. I'm gonna go at 550. 1,550. Calculator. There's a calculator around here somewhere. There's one. Maybe it's hard to do with one hand. There, calculator. So to get geometry or get ratios, you take 2.3, divide it by 1.55. A lot better than I thought. 148, that's a pretty high ratio. I was not expecting that. Okay, that's good. That's almost 1.5 to 1. That's a pretty damn good ratio. Okay, that's good on that motor. This is the big motor. Okay, this is the small motor over here. And I do my scale. So we have 2.3. Double check our numbers here. And 550. Yeah, looks the same. 2.3 also, right? Yep, 2.3. A little bit makes a big difference on rockers too. 148. It's consistent. So it's probably 1.5 to 1 or 1.45 or 8 something 1. We're gonna go with 1.5 to 1 for now. Okay, this one over here, that's different. We don't have to quit the sight we can see on the other one. Alright, I gotta do this one up here. I can't hold it and do this all at once. Let's see, go off this one maybe. A little bit of light would help. Center line. It's like about 450 would be a guess. No, 400. I'm gonna go 1.4. And the problem with this one is it's a 1 to 1. It's actually less than 1 to 1. It's negative. What the hell? Why would they ever make a motor with negative? Okay, over here it's definitely a different number. Yeah, not really. It's hard to do when you're out of running. I gotta keep the correct angle. I'm on the wrong angle. I was looking at it sideways. So it's, we're 1.5. Yeah, 1.5 inches that way, and this way maybe 1.4. Let's see, where's the center of the push rod? I'm kind of guessing. No, we're more like 1.5 inches. I think it's 1 to 1. That's really bad. I was hoping at least 1.2 to 1, but that's horrible. 1 to 1. It's like a flathead. Or an overhead cam motor where it pushes right on the cam in the bucket. It's 1 to 1 ratio. Okay, so this is only 1.1. This is 1 to 1. I really do not like 1 to 1 ratio rocker arms. That's terrible. Let's see. I'm gonna try to get a better idea. Now that might grow a little bit because the angle is coming through that, but these are pretty flat. Yeah, that's still off. It's hard to measure stuff when you're at an angle like this. I think we're a little bit more here. Maybe 1.6 inches that way. Trying to guess where the rock arm would be at. If they got to 1.4, it'd be a miracle. Okay. So I'm going to just kind of guess at this here. At best case scenario, 1.6 divided by 1.4. 1.142, 1.2 rocker ratio, that's at best. It's probably more like 1.5, 1.1. It's definitely no rocker ratio in that thing. That means that whatever cam you use, that's all you're getting for lift. So that's pretty bad. That one over there is pretty good, 1.5 to 1, I like that. So this motor here, nothing. So that means if I weld up the rocker hole and change it, I can play with it that way. Or I can take these bolts and move them up a little bit, which would be really, really difficult to do. Yeah. It's a lot easier to move the inner one here down. So you have all this room over here, you can just fill the hole up and go down lower. If you can bring that thing down lower yet, you're going to gain some rocker arm in it, but it's going to be very, very low rocker geometry. You really need to move these pivot bolts down. One bolt hole will do wonders for it. But, yeah, that's not good. That's pretty bad. That's going to definitely cut the power level of the motor way back. That's probably going to be about a 40 horsepower loss right there. Yeah, that's pretty bad. We're definitely going to have to modify the rock arms. So I can move the pivot down. So instead of the pivot being flat right here, at an angle, you'd move it over to here. You can probably cheat a little bit more on the rocker tip. Maybe get down to right there. How much would that be? The rocker arm is right here. Basically where that hole is at. That's 1 inch over. That'd be pretty good if you get to 1 inch. You have to move the whole hole over a long ways. Definitely custom rock arms. Ah, more money. What was this number? I already forgot. Was it 1.5? Oh, it'd be a lot easier if I was standing up on doing this one. And at best you're 1.5. Yeah, see if you can get those numbers, you're 1.5 to 1 ratio. So if I get to send a push rod hole down here where the bolt is, that'd be 1.5 to 1 ratio. Assuming that's 1.5 inches from there to there. Make it a little bit longer, you lose some rake, you lose a little bit of rocker. So basically I need to move that hole down to the center where these holes are at, which is moving it over 3/8 of an inch at least. Alright, it's even more angle going down. Getting worse. Next, if you move the bolt holes up, you got more room, but you'd have to put some material in here because there's no material. It'd be hard to weld down there, but you can get in there. Fin's in the way, but melt the tip of the fin off. Yeah, if you can make these bolt holes and move them down a little bit, not those holes, excuse me, these holes here. Pull them back a little bit, makes the tip longer on that side. Does the same effect, and that'll keep the push rod angles from being so severe. So that'd probably be a better way of going. Have to make up some kind of a jig to do that, I'm sure. That'll be fun. Alright, I'll see if I can do it all in the arm. We'll have to see. Alright, so that's pretty miserable. Really going to suck up some horsepower there. Alright. That's terrible. Let's see. This at least we can use a stock Harley pump on here, stock oil system, all that would work. So, alright. Well, that's what we're looking on that one. The next problem is my center lines for my Sportster case. I have not determined what I want to do yet on that. These have a little bit bigger diameter lifters in them, which is a plus. These have a block that you can take in and out, which is really a plus. This one you're stuck with the case. And when you do a bunch of welding on the case here, all of this stuff can warp around and be a problem. So, but it does have the squirters in it I like. This one does not have squirters in it. Okay, there's no squirters here. The oil's over here, so you could drill a hole from there over into here and put a squirter over here, I guess. Drill an angle. As long as you clear the block over here, you should be fine. So you can probably put a squirter right down into here. Catch a hole, make it work. Probably use those squirters right there, or go with a big twin squirter. Big twin has 2 holes in their squirters, so not the long length. In this case, that's probably better. But you're going to have one hole going to go through that lifter block, which is not good. So maybe that's not a good plan. Probably vertical, like this. The reason they're vertical is because they're in between the lifter blocks. There's metal there. If you go sideways, it's into the block, into the holes. So we'll have to use those ones. Alright, so that would be an option. I'm looking at the early Evo 4-speed case. Thinking about going buying one. Just so I'll have it. But it'll... more money. Alright, well there's where we're on that. So the only thing for sure is we're using Chevrolet lifter blocks and not Evo. And the rockers suck. That's pretty much where we're at. And the exhaust pipe's too small. And there's no meat in here, so the exhaust temperature needs to come down on my engine modeling program somehow. And I'm not sure how we're going to do that either. Yeah. Maybe we'll just do some water injection. Will that cool exhaust? Maybe. Don't know. Well, I know you're gonna melt that port out if you don't do something. That thing's that deep. Less than this thickness. Yeah, it goes down all the way down to here. Yep. Yeah, it's not. That ain't too good. I don't think that's going to take a lot of heat. Alright, that's about where I'm at. Another long mock-up. So I'm going to check on the cams. If I can come up with a cam for this reasonably, this is probably the option I'm going to go right now. If I can't get anybody to make a cam, we're committed to a 4-cam Sportster case of some year. So the only one I know for sure I'm not going to use, I'm not going to use the 5-speed Evo case. I ain't using it because I don't like the holes I got in the case. They have big ass holes through here, and there's no squirters. They got big ass holes in the middle of the case that weakens the piss out of it. This one here, there's no hole. Gets real thin, but see, it doesn't go through. There's no hole. And I can always come in here and weld this whole area up if I wanted to in there. So I can fix that probably by making it solid. I could probably weld up the other one too, I guess. It's probably about a toss-up on that. But there's no advantage. So, alright. That's where we're at for now.